I just played City of Gears, and did I find it clutch, or did it leave me grinding my gears? We'll find out in this video, which I cannot promise does not have more puns. Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Chaz Just Played, the video series where I talk about a game that I just played and give my first impressions on it. Today's game is going to be City of Gears, published by Gray Fox Games and designed by that dynamic duo of Chris Leader and Daryl Andrews, two designers who taste better together than my capers and starfish sandwich that I had for lunch. So if you're wondering how City of Gears works, let me give you an overview first of what it's all about. City of Gears is a type of area control, area influence game that uses a really neat modular tile set. And that's because, from their factory, players will race to claim ownership over the magnificent ruins of an abandoned clockwork metropolis. The marketing copy claims that each game plays in under an hour, which is something we'll come back to, but for now, what I want to focus on is how each turn, players will roll a number of production dice to activate different city tiles, and then move their automated little robot workers around to perform a variety of different actions, such as drawing and placing gears to reactivate areas of the city, or give themselves a growing list of superpowers, or even sabotaging opponents. As the city is being revealed and its abilities are discovered, players will concoct plans to accrue prestige and hinder their opponents so that once opening day arrives, they will emerge victorious. The marketing blurb is also asking me to ask you if you have what it takes to set the City of Gears in motion. Alright, so there's kind of an overview of how City of Gears works, but the question I want to answer is, does City of Gears work? Is this a game that's worth your time, and even more importantly, worth mine? And I think the best place to start with the answer to that is to talk about the very thing that drew me to this game in the first place. The thing that I think can both be a pull and a detraction from this game, its table presence. I think I first saw City of Gears actually back at Origins this past summer, back in June. I was walking past the Gray Fox Games booth, and Alex from Gray Fox pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I want to show you this game." So I had my camcorder, I was looking for little bits of things to add to a video, and he showed me City of Gears laid on the table, and the sheer table presence of this game surprised me and impressed me so much that I forgot completely to turn my camcorder on, and I didn't record any of my conversation with him about the game. Why, yes, I do this semi-professionally, now that you ask. And what Alex showed me at Origins was just a prototype, actually. It wasn't even a finished production copy, but it was enough to make me intrigued. But that table presence actually is something that scared a lot of people that I first introduced the game to. The game looks a lot more intimidating on the table. It can look deceivingly intimidating. What with all of its tiles and its gears and its bag and its little robots and all of the little, it's the cutouts really that do it. It's all the little cutouts that make people go, whoa, what's with all these cutouts and things I'm gonna have to fit in here? This is scary looking. Scary. Nobody except V-Bug will get that joke. Anyway, the point is that the game's table presence actually intimidated quite a few people that I first introduced it to. They were afraid that this was going to be a lot more complex of a game than it was, and once I described the rules to them, better yet, I taught them the rules. I didn't just describe the rules, because that's a much more effective way for people to learn a game. Once I taught them the rules, it was very common for their eyes to unglaze over and for them to go, oh, that's all there is to this game? Oh, this is nothing like what I thought it was going to be based on its first appearance. So tip 1 about City of Gears, don't be fooled by first appearances. Second rule of City of Gears, don't try to teach it immediately after eating a capers and starfish sandwich. So let's talk about those rules. First thing is that claim in the marketing blurb that the game plays in under an hour. You know that games are notorious for underselling how quickly they play. You know, plays in 20 minutes. 4 days. 4 days, 6 weeks. 6 weeks? I'm still playing it right now. However, every now and then you will come across a game that actually accurately depicts how long it takes to play, and City of Gears is one of these games. Depending on how much lead time you have and new players and the age range of the players, blah, 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 blah. However, Once people were described the rules in detail and we started playing, were there a lot of questions? How easy were they to comprehend and apply to the gameplay, and how did that affect our overall experience? The rules were fine. We didn't find ourselves reaching for the rule book any more or less than any other game of this size, weight, and grandeur. The only thing I did find missing was there's a few little icons and things that we encountered throughout the game that didn't really have a full description on exactly how they worked, and we kind of had to guess. Now, I did watch an instructional video as well right before we started playing, so from that instructional video I was able to ascertain a few of the little gaps that we had. So there's got to be something that I can complain about. This is the internet after all. All right, I got two things, but before you get excited that I'm about to rip this game apart, they're really just two nitpicky things, really, so don't get excited. The primary item is the 3x3 grid of these tiles that you'll be using to create the city. I mean, these are cool and really neat, but when you lay them down, due to the nature of how they're die cut and just the way they lay, and the fact that you have to flip them over as you play to discover them, they may honestly be the most fiddly component of any game I have ever used, ever. Every time that we went to flip over one of these tiles, we would inevitably smoosh around all the neighboring tiles, then have to spend, a couple of seconds repositioning everything. And this admittedly is not going to be a problem for everyone, because I found that I myself spent a lot of my time repositioning these tiles to make them just so, because they had to be just so when they were off when I flipped, and I could get them just right. They're not lining up. They're not lining up. So yeah, that may actually be more of a problem with me than with the game itself. Anyway, besides, there's only 9 of these tiles in the game, and you only flip each one once over the course of the game, so it's not like you're constantly reaching in, moving everything apart with your hands and everything and having to smush it back together. Like I said, it's really just a little nitpick, so if you're looking for drama, it's a pretty disappointing complaint. My other complaint about the game is just as disappointing, because it's also related to the tiles. Myself and every single person that I have played with at one point has said of their own accord, with no prompting from anyone else, boy, it'd be really cool if there was like an overall board underneath all the tiles that was kind of die cut itself or something, or multi-layered, that the tiles could fit into to keep them from moving around. Even if it was kind of a frame around the board or something. Ooh, wouldn't that be cool? That may be paraphrased. At any rate, I just thought it was amusing that every single player, independently of one another, brought up at some point, but seriously, the amount of time and effort and extra expense that it would take to produce such a thing, probably not worth it in the long run. And honestly, not only because you're only dealing with 9 tiles there, they actually give you around 20 tiles in the box to mix and match to keep the game having some variety, but that also allows you to customize your layout. You don't have to use a 3x3 layout. You can do a 4x4, or like 3 this way and 2 that way, or even like, an asymmetrical design. It really doesn't matter as long as you pick the ones up off the floor that you drop. And I think that might be a good spot to start talking about certain things about this game that I really enjoyed. The first of them being the plethora of components that they give you to mix and match. The number of tiles that you're going to use. Why, yes, I do this semi-professionally. For example, they give you 21 of these city tiles, and each one is unique, and you're only going to use 9 in any given game. And that alone provides you with at least 12 different combinations of city tiles. Probably far more than 12, but I am confident in at least 12. You could have at least a dozen different city combinations, but really, it's a lot. There's also this fun little bag of little plastic gears that you'll be using to both open up parts of the city and power your own little factory, and there's 40 of these guys in there. And your little factories can hold at most 5 of these little guys in any one game. So if you play a 4-player game, that's enough little different cogs in here for every single player to have a completely different factory 2 whole games before you even see the same little gear twice. So the customization options, that the number of city tiles and the optional configuration of the city tiles and the number of little gears that the game comes with, really made the game stand out to me when it came to its level of customization. And another tile fell on the floor. And one of the things about the game, which actually really surprised me, and I came full circle on, is its level of complexity. Let me explain. Like I mentioned earlier, much like a caper and starfish sandwich, when you first look at this game laid out on the table, it can look like something very, very scary that you don't want to put in your mouth. However, once you learn how the game plays and start playing it, you're like, oh, well, this is really simple. Yeah, I can totally see how this would play in 45 to 60 minutes. And the game goes at a brisk pace and it plays really well, and it's not very heavy. It's more than a filler, but you go and you're wondering, does this game actually have some meat to it? You know, is this actually a little too light? But then you realize that while you weren't paying attention, your opponents went and locked you out of a sector of the city. See, in order to go from one sector of the city to another, you gotta travel across little bridges made by the gears that you put down with your token on it. But each tile only has room for so many connections. So if your opponents sneak in and lay down their gears first, they can actually block you off because you can only travel over your own gears, and so you won't actually be able to get across their gears into that sector of the city. And if you really gotta get over there, well, the only way you're gonna do it is to gather up the little zap resources and blow up one of their gears, which is gonna admittedly slow you down a little bit. And it wasn't until like 3/4 of the way through our very first game that I actually saw and realized this. Again, not paying attention and was daydreaming about what kind of sandwich I was going to make next. But when I discovered that about the game, that I not only had to just go and open up areas of the cities to get bonuses and points, but actually I could use my little gear connections to actually control areas of the city, well, it opened up a whole new layer of strategy, a whole new layer of interest in the game. And it was really not something I was expecting to experience. I wasn't thinking that this game would actually have that much potential bite to it. Now, you can actually even control how much direct conflict you're going to have with the other players just simply on the way that you lay out the tiles for the board. In fact, the rulebook even has in the back a alternate layout that you can use, which simply by adding an additional tile around the outer edge of the board introduces a much more lower conflict game. All right, so there you go. There is an overview of my experience, kind of getting brought up to speed with City of Gears, learning it, introducing it to other players, some of the potential pitfalls we ran into, and kind of the end result. It's not a big, thinky Euro game. It's not a really high-stakes Ameritrash game. But it's also not just a little filler. It hits, for me, this sweet spot that I really enjoy in the middle between those. It's something I could definitely play with my family. It's a game I would feel confident including in my bag, taking to game night. And I might call it a little more than a typical gateway game, but it's something that after introducing some other people with like, Forbidden Island and Downforce and some of my other favorite gateway games, it's definitely one that's on the list of, hey, you want to try something a little bit more? And in that way, City of Gears totally lives up to my expectations for it, and it's a game that I found to really fire on all cylinders. So I did it! Came up with one more gear joke. Pun. Joke pun. Joke puns. Joke pun. I'm done. No, wait, I wasn't done because I got so proud of myself there. I forgot to mention that for more board game news, reviews, commentary, and countdowns, be sure to subscribe. And until the next video, I've been Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise, saying thanks. I'll talk to you again soon. Chris Leader and Daryl Andrews, two great designers that go together like chocolate and peanut butter. Two great designers who go together like VCR and Betamax. Go together like steak and onions, and the onions are those caramelized type onions. I don't usually actually really like onions, but if they saute them and caramelize them, a little bit crispy, but just right, you can taste the Chris Leader. Go together like a cat in a helicopter and a dog like a pocket full of rocks and a backpack full of snakes. Like gravy and butter. Like finding out you have something stuck between your teeth, but then pulling out and realizing it's a quarter. Like an army of talking armadillos, and what else do you really need? Like pants and more pants. Two great designers that go together. Two great designers that go together like there's black licorice and red licorice. Because all colors are great. Two great designers that go together like two great designers that go together like I don't even care anymore because they're two great designers and they're nice guys.